Good evening. Welcome to Martinez Life. I'm Tom Grady. We have Dr. Fitzpatrick with us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You look the same.
Yeah?
Yeah. How long were you in medical practice in Martinez?
About 40 years.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So that would have been from 1948
48.
to about 1986 or 88 or
Well, I
something?
closed the office in 86, and then I worked part-time at Shell and at the Mount Diablo Rehab, and finally in 92 I just quit altogether.
Yeah, great. And your father was a doctor here in Martinez.
Right.
So you were the son of a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And where was his office at, your dad's?
He was in the first floor of the old Martinez Hotel on Ferry Street.
Main and Ferry, the corner of Main and Ferry.
Yeah.
That was a great hotel. I think it burned in 1938. And
somewhere along in there. Yeah.
So there were a lot of businesses inside that hotel. Did you go down to his office as a kid? And,
Occasionally, yeah.
Yeah. And when did your father come to Martinez approximately? Do you recall?
About 1910 or 11.
So he was one of the early doctors.
Right.
He knew Dr. Merrithew.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, who's a well-known doctor and had the community hospital, or the Contra Costa Hospital named after him.
Mm-hmm.
But your father was one of the originators of the community hospital, the Martinez Community Hospital.
Right. All the doctors got together and put the money together and built it.
So that was the stockholders owned that?
Right. Right.
Did you get any of the stock?
I ended up with some, yeah, but...
Well, that's good, yeah. We've got a great old picture that you brought of your father and Dr. Merrithew.
Right.
These guys look to me like real characters.
Yeah. Merrithew's the one with the cigar.
Merrithew is one with the cigar, and your dad is the other doctor, and these are doctors in probably, what, 1920 or 1915?
I don't know, probably in the teens somewhere.
Yeah. And your dad died early, didn't he?
In 1938.
1930. So you were...
He was only 55, yeah.
Yeah. And you were a young kid then?
I was a freshman in college, yeah.
Freshman?
Yeah.
So you just finished Alhambra?
Mm-hmm.
1938?
Right.
Wow. So in 1938, you went away to school, and you were a freshman, and your dad dies.
Yes.
And that's a sad thing. Where were you in college at?
At Santa Clara.
Oh, I see. But that's not where you finished.
No, I finished up at Stanford. I transferred up there and finished up there and graduated in 42.
Oh, I see. And your aunt was a very famous teacher at Alhambra.
Right.
Melba Fitzpatrick.
Absolutely.
A terrific teacher.
Yeah.
She was still teaching when I was there, 1963 and 4. She taught George Miller, our congressman.
Oh, yeah.
Did she teach you?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That was a miserable year.
She used to do a thing when I was in her history class, and she would ask you a question. She'd walk around the room and she'd say, "How many members of the United States Congress, Mr. Grady?" And then she'd make you stand up and answer.
Oh, yeah. She had discipline.
She really did, yeah. So your aunt is Melba Fitzpatrick, and your father's a doctor, and he dies, and your mother lived on Pine Street, didn't she?
Yes, yeah.
That's where you were raised?
Right, on Pine and Haven there on the corner.
Yeah, it's a neat old house. We would see
it's still
it.
there.
Yeah, but then your mom moved up to, where'd she move to?
Up on Thomas Drive, up on next to the reservoir.
Yeah, I think Mayor Minicini lives in that house now.
Right.
Yeah, and that's it's a greenhouse. So did she build that house, or was it in existence?
She built it, yeah.
Oh, I see. So then how did you end up marrying a woman from the Midwest?
Yeah.
A Dolan. How did you meet your wife?
She lived near the medical school, and I met her on a double date.
Oh, what medical school did you go to?
St. Louis University.
So you left Stanford and then went to St. Louis University?
Yeah, directly, yeah.
And then how do you end up back in Martinez, and is it...
just sort of a natural flow, I guess. Dr. Rampoldi offered me a job in his office, so I took it after I got out of the Army.
Henry Rampoli, he was also from Martinez.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So what type of a practice did you guys?
Just general practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was a good practice.
Oh, yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah. But those kinds of practices are not, you don't see them much anymore.
Oh, they're there, but they're different, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the HMOs and everything, the specialization.
It made a big difference in everything, yeah.
Yeah. There's a couple of doctors still functioning, I think, in the fashion that you did, and some.
Oh, yes, there are some around, sure.
Yeah, but not that many. So you come back, you go to the medical school in St. Louis. You meet your wife, you get married, and did you go in the service?
Right. Yes. After my internship.
Where'd you get shipped? Where did you?
Philippine Islands.
Oh, that's
Manila. Yeah.
Lovely place after the war.
Yeah, it was after the war, right? Yeah.
And Korea.
So and then we went up to Korea after that, and then came home.
To Martinez.
Absolutely.
To 40 years of medical practice, and you had a lot of wonderful years as a doctor, and that must be a wonderful life in a way, to be a doctor in a town where you know so many of the people, and you treat. Maybe you had patients from your father or generations on.
There were a few. Yeah, there were a few.
There were a few.
Yeah, most of them had been gone a long time, but.
Yeah. Well, did your dad have the same kind of practice that you did?
Yes.
Yeah. And ultimately, who were your partners? I think you were with Rampoli.
Well, I was with Dr. Rampoli, and then after about 10 years, I went out and, with my brother-in-law, Dr. Pedley.
Oh, yeah, Dr. Pedley.
And then we worked together about 10 years, and then we both split off. And I finished up by myself.
Yeah. When your father was in Martinez as a doctor, how many doctors were there?
Just 4 at the time he started out.
Well, there have been Merrithew.
And Merrithew and Dr. Sweetser and Dr. Beard and
Dr. Merrithew.
Yeah, Merrithew, yeah.
So your dad was good to you, because we have or I don't know who gave it to you, but we have a photograph of a car here.
That was my first car.
Yeah.
1919 Studebaker.
This is a 1919 Studebaker?
Yeah.
A convertible.
Was a year older than I was.
What do you have written on the side there?
Oh, all sorts of little sly sayings.
Yeah. So this is in the 30s?
Yes.
And what would you have written on the side? Just little...
Oh, it says post no bills across the doors, and you know, real
just cute
hot
things.
stuff in those days.
Yeah. Who would ride around with you in this car?
All my friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Used to drive it to school.
Yeah. But over to Alhambra. Mm-hmm. And the old driveway in front of the old building.
Yeah.
Now, where'd you guys go on a Friday or Saturday night?
Just stayed in Martinez.
Yeah.
There wasn't any place else to go.
Yeah. Were there movies in those days?
Well, the State was there, and the old Avalon was there, and that was about it when I was in school, yeah.
Yeah, was there a theater down by where Middleton Market
Well, that was the years when I was a little tiny kid then. That was the Novelty.
Oh, yeah, the Novelty. Yeah. So, but did the creek flood like it does today and things like that?
I don't remember that it did.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Probably there's been a lot more building now, which has caused more flooding, and maybe the creek was not as stopped up.
No, I don't recall it flooding like it does now.
Yeah. Yeah, the water they say the water used to come up near the railroad tracks. Do you remember that?
Yeah, oh yeah, there was houseboats there by the railroad tracks, right across from the depot.
Houseboats?
Houseboats.
Yeah.
Not very big ones.
No, but not like up in the Delta.
No.
I think these were really, people were living in them.
Oh yeah. Little one-room places on pontoons.
Yeah, right across from the depot, right?
Yeah, they went all the way out the wharf, yeah.
Yeah, little salt flashes, the salt marshes and stuff like that. So, who was your favorite teacher at Alhambra? Was it your aunt, or who was it?
Well, that was a very uncomfortable year I spent with her.
Yeah.
Because she was close to us at home, you know.
Yeah, you'd see her at Christmas and at Sunday dinners.
See her weekly, daily almost sometimes, but because she was close to our family.
Yeah.
But
she'd be over there.
There was Miss Weehee and Mr. Bozarth, and they were all good teachers in those days.
Yeah, Miss Weehee was also there when I was there in 1964.
Yeah,
she was a terrific teacher. So, if you were to practice today in the medicine and the world that it is in specialization, you had a family practice.
Right.
Where does a person who's oriented towards being a family practice, where does that person fit into this very expensive medical field that we're confronted with today? And families.
Well, you're a primary caregiver.
Yeah.
And there's still. In fact, there's more in that business now than there were when I was there. There's a lot of primary caregivers. The people who went into internal medicine are all considered primary care.
Okay, so you could have been an internist, or could
Well,
you?
I would have had to go back for more training, but I mean, to be an official one, you know.
Yeah. And you I don't know whether it was through Dr. Rampoli or what have you, but you got in where you did a lot of the business at Tidewater and Shell. How did that develop?
I don't know. He was working with Tidewater at the time, and
The time you joined him?
yeah, yeah. And of course, then we did business for Shell too, because we were right here in town. And it just gradually worked into a regular relationship with the two companies. And then we ended up with Shell mostly.
So, and that fits your kind of, how often did you go to Shell?
Well, until it must have been 80, somewhere along in there. Then we'd go out there every afternoon for an hour.
Yeah.
And,
And just see whoever was having
well,
a problem.
whoever happened to come in and whatever they needed. We did physical exams and evaluations and safety checks and so on.
Now, why is it, Doc, every time that I would go to your office or any medical doctor I'd go see, they'd want to weigh me in? I didn't like that.
You're lucky that's all they did.
Yeah. Why is it that they want to weigh you in?
Just to keep track of your general well-being and your health.
Yeah.
Make sure you haven't gained too much weight.
Yeah. Every time I'd go to Hilson's, there was a guy down there, well, Phil Edgar, one of them. They'd take off the measuring thing and say, "Come on, let's see where you're at now." You know, I don't want to be
Same
measured.
principle.
Same principle. They want to check on you.
Yeah, yeah.
What other things did you do to check on a person before you'd see a patient? You know, you'd want to have their weight checked.
Oh, the history mainly.
Get the history to
Yeah,
see what was wrong with them.
right.
And I guess being a doctor is a little bit it's not a perfect science, and so you got to read the people that you're dealing with and know about their history and that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that you get better and better at. Is that right?
It takes practice.
You had 6 children.
Right.
Jeannie was the oldest, and I knew Jeannie. She was my age. And then you had Michael.
Michael.
And
Maureen.
Maureen.
And Kathleen and John and Thomas.
John and Thomas, all doing well?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And your wife was a Dolan, and she was from St. Louis.
Right.
But your mother's family was from Martinez. They were Murrays, weren't they?
Well, they moved here, yes. They originally were from Kansas. My mother was born in Kansas.
Okay. And how was your mother's family connected to Martinez? They
just moved up here, and my grandfather started to work out at Mountain Copper.
Oh, out in Mountain Copper.
Yeah.
What, as a kid, what was Mountain Copper? What was it?
It was a kind of a smelly, dirty old place that made copper sulfate.
Yeah.
And that was about all. I think that's about all they did out there.
Yeah, and people worked there and had.
Oh
jobs
yeah, it was
there.
a small organization.
So when your father came to Martinez, he was a single man as a doctor.
Yeah, yeah.
And how did he and your mother meet?
I don't know really how they met. They were both in a small town. There was only, what, 3,000 or 4,000 people in the town in those days.
Yeah.
She used to work at LaSalle's as a clerk.
Oh, yeah.
And in the office, I think.
Yeah.
And in the dry goods section.
LaSalle's was a great old store, even when I was a kid.
Yeah, that was when they opened up onto Castro Street, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember that old store?
Oh, yeah, sure.
It was a great store, even when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah,
you know, it was
yeah.
fascinating. Where did you work as a boy? Did you have jobs?
In high school, I worked at the Martinez Drug and in the old hotel building.
So that was in the Martinez Hotel?
Right on the corner, yeah.
Martinez Drug.
Maiden Ferry. And
who owned that?
George Keller.
George Keller.
Yeah.
And he was, let's see, he was Wink Keller's father and Lou Keller's father?
Lou Keller's father, yeah.
Okay, what'd you do for them?
Wash bottles to start with, and gradually worked up into helping the clerk in the store.
Let's explain why a bottle. I mean, they just...
That's an old... Bottle washing was where all people who started in drugstores and kids started out doing that. In those days, you had reusable bottles. You didn't have all the plastics type of things and throw them away. We washed them out and put them up on a little spigot to dry, and then they used them over again.
And sterilized.
Liquid medications, you know.
Yeah. Drugstores had kind of a a soda fountain concept too that went with them. I know historically going back to the south.
Martinez drug didn't have a soda fountain. Bill Sears had one over in the Contra Costa drug. He had a soda fountain.
Now, where was he located?
Right across the street from the Martinez drug, right on the other corner of Main and Ferry.
Yeah. Why didn't you work for him?
Franco's is, I think, is in the.
Yeah, Franco's is there
it's in
now.
that building.
Why didn't you work for him?
I did. After I got into college, I'd come back during the summer and I'd work there.
Yeah. You worked your way around there.
Oh,
What'd you do for Bill Sears?
Same thing, clerking, stock shelves, jerk sodas.
Yeah. So he had the soda fountain.
He had the soda fountain, real old-fashioned soda fountain, yeah.
I was just reading a great book called The History of the American People, and in there they talk about the contribution of pharmacists and you know how Coca-Cola was started and developed, and how soda fountains in the South went with pharmacists, and that Sears was an example of a soda fountain and a pharmacist coming together. What was the size of Martinez when you were in high school, we'll say? 4,000 or 5,000?
Well, it might have been up to 8,000, I don't know, but it wasn't very big,
Yeah. But it was the biggest city around in the county.
At that time it was, I think, yeah. Concord hadn't developed yet that much,
It was just farms and...
Yeah, and they had a downtown area, but there wasn't...
wasn't much there.
And the county seat made a big difference for Martinez,
So then you come back in the war and it had picked up some more after...
Oh, yeah, well, there was a lot of big change going on then.
Yeah. You've seen in your lifetime a huge change, not only geographically in this county where you were born and raised. My God, you just, all the cities that have grown up and the wealth and the numbers of people, it must be amazing to have seen all that in one lifetime.
Yeah. It's been real interesting.
Yeah, it's
really... to see
really...
the changes, then to come back to see the changes,
Yeah, and it's not done.
No, still going.
Yeah, I don't think the change will end. Martinez had an airport too, didn't they?
Oh yeah.
Did you ever go down there, the airport?
We'd go down there, but I never flew an airplane down there or in one.
They say Jackie Dabby did. He used to fly.
He may have, I don't know.
Yeah, he used to fly out of there. But they actually had an airport.
Oh yeah, they had a regular airport down there, yeah. I don't know whether they took passengers. It wasn't a commercial type airport.
No, and the ferry would come and go.
Oh, and the ferry was the big business in those days, yeah.
It really was, yeah. And was there a bell in the old city hall, which was on Main Street, that they used to ring for fires and what have you?
Well, that was up on the tower, yeah. You could hear it ring all over town.
And later, Angie Azevedo comes to work for you. Didn't she work for you out there for over 20 years?
Oh, yeah, over 20 years.
In your business out there? And you were located, I think there's a doctor, maybe a podiatrist there.
A podiatrist is in there now, yeah.
And that's where you were at on Alhambra?
3801, yeah.
3801.
Yeah.
You owned part of that building, didn't you?
Yeah.
With the Kellers?
Yeah.
With Wink or Lou or somebody?
Yeah, at that time, yeah.
Yeah.
And they have sold out since then.
Yeah. And so that got developed. Alhambra Avenue, when was it that Alhambra Avenue was opened up? Was it in the late...
they cut it through out to Highway 4, so you didn't have to wind around Franklin Canyon anymore. I don't remember what year that was, to be honest with you.
I think it was in the early 50s or mid-50s or something.
Mid to late 50s, I would think.
Yeah.
Maybe a little, somewhere along in there.
So when you joined up with Dr. Rampoli in the late 40s, and you worked out of the Travelers Hotel, didn't you?
Yeah, in office and downstairs on Main Street.
Yeah. That was, I guess, a kind of a common thing for doctors to have a little office in a hotel.
Oh, yeah, they were all downtown, yeah.
What was it? Did you guys have an X-ray machine?
Yeah.
I mean, you had your own X-rays, but you didn't operate in the office.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and so if a person needed their appendix taken out or tonsils, you went to the community hospital.
Right.
Yeah, so. Right. How many beds were in the community hospital?
35.
So it was small.
Oh, yeah, very small.
30, but it was a good, I mean, I went there. It was it was a good hospital.
Yeah, they did a good job.
It was adequate for the size of the town.
Right.
And of course, we've got our listeners that don't know should remember there was no Mount Diablo Hospital at that time, or?
No, they had a small hospital in an old house. And then
in Concord?
Uh-huh. That was the original Mount Diablo Hospital.
Was in a house?
It was in an old house, big old two-story house.
Yeah.
And then they gradually developed that into where it is.
Yeah. It's pretty fantastic.
Oh,
really.
yeah.
It's a great
The Martinez doctors helped build some of that, the hospital, and expand it over there.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then John Muir, was there a John Muir or anything even near that? What it is today?
Oh, the hospital?
Yeah, in Walnut
no,
Creek.
No, they didn't have any hospital in Walnut Creek at all that I know of.
So if a person needed a hospital, they could go to Oakland or
Yeah.
Martinez,
Yeah.
or the house in Concord.
Mm-hmm.
What did they do in the house in Concord?
They had a regular little hospital set up.
Little
I
operating
don't know how many
room?
beds. Yeah, they did all sorts of stuff. Delivered babies. Yeah.
Yeah, you delivered quite a few babies.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and so in family practice, you take out tonsils, you take out appendix, you deliver babies, you see people that come in for various problems.
Make house calls.
Make house calls. Did you used to make house?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was part of the deal.
That's just part of the business. My father used to have 8 little satchels in the back of his car, and each one was for a different purpose. It had one for delivering babies, one for doing surgery or minor surgery, and medicines, and a couple of them, and he had it all compartmentalized. So when he'd go out to make a house call, he was ready for anything. And a lot of people were doing home deliveries in those times.
Yeah.
And so it.
Were you delivered at home?
No, not really. Not here. I haven't. No.
No, but I mean, were you yourself delivered at home? When you were
I
born?
was delivered at home. Yes.
You
but,
were, huh?
Yeah, Dr. Matthew delivered me.
Dr. Meredith
Yeah,
delivered
yeah.
you.
Yeah, in the house on Pine Street there.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of gone a little bit full circle, where people have gone to what they call the more natural method.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
some people.
That was real natural.
Yeah, yeah. You went right there in your mother's bedroom, right there, came out.
Yeah.
And so, but your father, he must have been quite a doctor to have 8 satchels in the trunk of his car.
Well, he was a very perfectionist type person, and he just wanted to be ready for anything.
Yeah.
He was.
Yeah.
Most of the doctors carried more than one bag.
Did you take after your father, you think?
Oh, in some respects, I probably have. Yeah.
Well, did people? Let's get a nice picture here of your father, and this is Dr. Fitzpatrick, one of the early physicians in Martinez in 1910 or 11. He came here and practiced till 1938. What year is this taken of your father, Doctor?
Probably 1910. That was when he graduated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So really, from 1911 till 1986 or 88, there was always a Dr. Fitzpatrick in Martinez.
Mm-hmm.
You know, other than maybe a couple years with World War II.
Well, yeah.
Well, that's a nice story, you know.
Yeah.
And then your aunt, I said, can't believe it.
My youngest boy is a doctor.
Oh, gee whiz, so 3 generations.
Yeah.
That's Tommy, right?
Tom, right.
Yeah, how old is he? Well, all right, that's all right. When you have 6 kids, you can get that screwed up.
He's up in Kaiser at Sacramento. He's a cardiologist.
Oh, he's a heart doctor, yeah. So well, that's wonderful that he took after his father.
So there's 3 generations.
At least, yeah. And your daughter Jeannie's a nurse.
She was a nurse, right.
Yeah, she's a trained nurse. That's wonderful. So he's got a great thing there, old Tommy does, your youngest son.
Yeah.
His dad's a doctor and his grandfather was a doctor. Well, a lot of people have fond memories of Dr. Fitzpatrick. I think you were a very good doctor, and the people that you treated very well and honestly.
So.
Yeah. You wrote accurate prescriptions, because that's a big deal, isn't it?
They could read most of them.
Huh?
They could read most of them.
Yeah, that's good. Well, there were always good pharmacists in Martinez.
Right, with good eyesight.
Yeah, they had good pharmacies and that sort of thing. And Phil Haig, Johnny Bellacci, a lot of them are, the old ones are still going around town, actually, which is nice. Yeah. And, well, Doc, I think they're signaling me that I'm pretty close to being done here, but I want to thank you for coming over. A lot of the people from Martinez have been very happy that you came on and shared your history and your father's history and the story of the Murrays and the Fitzpatrick and how they got all mixed up together. And we remembered Melba.
Right.
The great Melba that so many people remember from Alhambra. Okay, until next time, this is Tom Gertie. Good night, God bless, and good luck. Thank you.
Breeze from the Strait of Martinez, taking me straight to Martinez. It's the place for me, place I wanna be headed for. Like a souvenir that I've just found, it reminds me a lot of my hometown. Think I'll end